Eventually, we had a kickoff. Eventually, this game got going. And I don't know, Lisa, it felt a little uneasy at times. Let's talk about it. A goal coming in the 18th minute of the first half in this match. Did it make you feel anxious? Did it make you feel nervous? Did it make you feel worried? Talk to me about this first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the emotions the first 20 minutes of this game for me watching on my couch were a little bit of a roller coaster because as this match got kicked off, the first 7, 8, 9 minutes, Germany controlled a lot of it. The momentum, the tempo, the possession. It was US being put on their heels. We talked about Girma and how much of a lock she is at center back. In the opening 6 or 7 minutes of this match, Naomi Girma had 2 incredible slide tackles and sliding defensive plays that saved the United States. She came in and she prevented opportunities that Germany had and couldn't take advantage of because Girma was the one standing in their way. But the opening 7, 8 minutes were a lot of Germany and the United States having to organize defensively and be on the back heel and be put under that pressure. And I think it's good to be put under that kind of pressure. And that's why the United States is playing against a top 3 team, one of the best teams in the world in this German side, who we got to see pop starting in the front. We got to see Oberdorf in the midfield, Magul come in later in this match. I think the rotation from Germany also was a bit of a question mark for the United States. And it wasn't the same lineup that they went with on Thursday. So defensively, you have to be cautious of where the marks are, especially when you have Alexander Pop running around in that front line. But after, I think like the 8 minutes, it evened out a little bit in terms of possession. The United States then finally were able to get their foot on the ball, control it a little bit. There was an opportunity, Girma actually with a great opportunity with a long ball over the top to Herrera. It was not a great first touch by Herrera, but that there were moments where the United States were getting their head up, connecting those passes, getting in behind Germany's back line. But the goal for Germany coming in the 18th minute, defensively, it was a bit of a shambles.
It was a lapse.
That's what caused me angst. I was like, how are we making these mistakes? I mean, as Germany's sending the cross in, it is 4v5. 4 German attackers against 5 American defenders. And that's not good enough. That is not good enough. The United States needs to have more people behind the ball. Emily Fox initially gets caught up a little bit higher. She looks to jump on the ball and she doesn't end up getting it cleanly. So then they send that through ball in. And so they're in behind on Emily Fox's side, the right side for the German attackers. And as the cross comes in, the U.S. can't clear it either, right? They get pieces of it, and a wide open player at the penalty kick punishes them. But the lack of recovery and defensive organization for the United States was very worrisome to me in watching that. Now, I think that the response we saw from the United States was better than the response that they had in the first match against Germany when Germany scored first, because you have to remember Germany went up both times in the United States in these friendlies, which I think puts the United States in a great position to learn about how to respond to that.
No, I'm with you. I was looking for I was just looking for a response. Like, okay, you conceded that first goal. What's going to be the response? I thought it was a semi-decent response. It also wasn't too unfamiliar from that game on Thursday between these two sides. I liked what we saw in the first half, out of Lavelle. I liked that we saw a little bit of continuity coming out of Thursday into this Sunday match with somebody like Mal Pugh still trying to get on the ball, still trying to make things happen. And obviously we didn't see the payoff until the second half, but even just sort of ticking past that half hour mark for this team, you started to see some things. So the first half, you're talking closing out this first half, again, in terms of the opportunities in each final third, 5 shots apiece at halftime for both of these teams. No shots on target for the United States, but 1 shot on target for Germany. So I'm not too sure if you can make an argument that, one team outplayed the other in that first half. But obviously, the margins for error are small when you start getting into these types of games between, the number ranked number 1 through 10. It gets very, very narrow. So we saw Germany take advantage of that, right? So going into second half or going into halftime with this 1-0 lead, but even within this final 15 minutes of this first half, sort of again, these threads and trends from Thursday's game where there were opportunities in the box, but just it sort of felt like that final touch or that final finish was just missing, and it was like everyone sort of waiting for it at one point.
Yes, like a lack of ruthlessness on the United States end, or like those touches were just off a little bit. I know there were a handful of volleys that went over the crossbar, and yeah, they're really hard to do, but also like those are the technical moments. I talked about the long ball from Germa over the top into Haran, and the first touch from Haran isn't clinical enough, and that's what gets her in behind. It's those tiny moments in the United States attacking end that is the reason they're not getting more shots on goal, right? I mean, you just dropped that stat. I think there was another stat out there that in the last 3 games before this second Germany friendly, the United States only had 7 shots on goal over 3 matches against England, Spain, and the first match against Germany. So the clinicalness and the ruthlessness in front of the goal is something that almost concerns me a little bit, because they were getting their chances. And then the attacking moments that the United States was moving quickly in transition in that first half, it was the front 3, Pugh Morgan-Smith and then Lavelle leading, coming in behind. But there was gaps, there was spacey gaps we saw defensively from the United States, and then in the attacking end too, where the entire team wasn't connected on the field, and they left really open holes for Germany to push through. And I think when we talk about the ruthlessness, one of the players that comes to mind that is Alex Morgan, because we talked about it in the first match. She's the one that forced the lone goal for the United States against Germany in her high counter press, winning the ball back and sending it in. I took note that Alex Morgan was winning so many defensive headers on corner kicks, on set pieces, on 6-yarders. She was at least getting stuck in. But now how does that translate into the attacking end? And it's being more clinical on those finishes.
It was tough to watch for some stretches of this game because we see these players and we sort of recognize what they're good at, right? But within the current system, you're just looking at a player like Morgan and seeing the work that she's doing, or whether it's somebody like a Haran and what is being asked of that player in terms of like not being able to see the impact despite still getting good looks in the final third, right? So I was just curious if like going into second half with this sort of added layer now of a must win, that was also kind of a little bit, I'm smiling when I say it, but it was also a little bit funny for me too, because it's just what should have been just a pair of friendlies to close out the calendar year. All of a sudden this last one had this like ridiculous
do
kind
or
of
die mentality
layer to it of like a must win. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like how did everybody, get here? Like how did this whole team get here? My goodness, Alex Morgan at one point in pregame availability saying like, we're not going to be the team where it's 4 games, so it's just like energy, right? The energy is coming into this one. So to sort of see this first half kind of close out the way that it happened, down a goal, still narrow, still a game that you can get after.
Yeah.